licensed social worker who serves as the executive director of the Women's Medical Fund. That's an organization that works to ensure and expand abortion access through direct service and community organizing. And then we also have Alyssa W. She's a millennial mother of two sons, one of whom was diagnosed while still in the womb with Down syndrome and recently turned 3 years old. So, ladies, welcome to you all. Thank you for joining us for this conversation.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so let's dive in here. Let's start with your why, right? Why did each of you accept the invitation to join this roundtable? And Lakeisha, we'll start with you.
Well, one, because of the work that I do and my own personal experience. I actually had an abortion as a result of rape, so why not bring that experience to the table and to really talk and really be an advocate for those people who've experienced sexual violence and rape.
Got you.
As a result of rape.
And then Nina?
Hi, thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure. My advocacy for women started when I was very young. I lived through a very brutal war of independence, and in that 9 months of war, 3 million people were killed, and 200,000 women were raped as a tool of war. So since then, I have been working to make sure we do not remain second-class citizens in the world.
Got you. And Alicia?
Hi, this is Alicia. Thank you so much for having me. I'm on the call because I think it's critical to not only highlight the atrocities that are happening right now across the nation, across the world actually, and specifically in PA, but to also remind people that this is nothing new. There has been state violence, particularly against Black and brown bodies, for generations, and so we must be vigilant in our fight. So I'm happy to be here and honored to share the mic with all y'all.
Yeah, thank you. And then last but not least, Alyssa.
Hi, guys. I'm Alyssa. As Rita told you all, I am the mom of two, one of which has Down syndrome and just turned 3. And I wanted to chime in on this issue just from the perspective of Down syndrome rights, Down syndrome advocacy, and to pretty much just talk about my view on whether, outlawing abortion for prenatal diagnosis is the answer. Gotcha. For advocacy and ensuring rights for not only individuals with Down syndrome, but all disabled individuals.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So, ladies, nationwide, we're seeing a rollback on women's reproductive rights, with the reasoning being the issue of human rights, right? Like I'm hearing that come up a lot as that being rooted in why this rollback is happening. And when I say human rights, I'm saying that as in the right of a fetus to live. Is this the lens that we should be viewing abortion through? And if not, what lens do you think we should consider using and why? Lakeisha, let's start with you.
Well, ultimately, whether or not this should be the lens, I think for me it's less about what the lens is and more about if an event that you all would like for this to be the lens, allow that to be the lens across the board. Because if an event that we say that lives matter, but at the same time we see Black and brown bodies slaughtered in the street and multiple people who are raped, and yet we don't see convictions for those things, then you're not telling me that these particular people actually matter.
Got you. Okay, and then let's go to Nina.
So I think the lens is a problem because we're looking at it from the perspective of women not having their full agency. I actually think that this whole slow degradation of our rights needs to be addressed through the lens of Equal Rights Amendment. We don't have an Equal Rights Amendment yet in our Constitution, which actually is one state away from being ratified. And that would provide the framework for an equality argument, meaning women are going to have require reproductive and bodily autonomy. And without control of our own bodies, women cannot participate as full and equal citizens in this country. But when Roe versus Wade was passed, that was passed on a privacy issue, meaning the doctor had the right to have privacy to deal with their patient. If we change that argument, that when we put this into the Constitution, it doesn't matter who Donald Trump puts on the Supreme Court. We will actually have our rights embedded in the Constitution. Currently, as women, we don't have that. We have it for race, religion, national origin, we don't have it for women.
Mm.
And that's how I would frame it and change it.
Got you. Alicia.
So, double click what everybody else just said, but also, I think that the frame that I would use and continue to use is that this is a matter of power and control over folks. Like, this has very little to do with actually caring about fetuses. It doesn't matter about actual infants or babies. If there was that care and concern, then there would be a lot more money put into, thinking about prenatal, postnatal, early education, food, all of the things. And so this has very, very little to do with actually caring about a fetus, and everything to do with actually controlling an entire class of people. And so I think, it's just, for me, the frame I take is that this is a matter of power and control, and of trying to remind folks that this issue has not always been a political issue. Like, abortion access is semi-recently new in terms of, like, the grand scheme of our history, right? Certainly having state-sanctioned violence against bodies has been going on since we were taken over, right?
Gotcha.
In our country. And so I think I just want to kind of, like, remind folks that this idea that we're even having a conversation about abortion, and that it feels so dire, it feels so new, it feels so frantic and a lot is new, and is by design. It's by design about power and control.
Got you. And Alyssa, your thoughts on, is this the right lens, human rights, right? Is that the right lens that we should be viewing abortion through? And if not, what lens do you think we should consider using, and why?
See, I think that abortion is largely a moral issue, and so it's kind of always will get sticky when you kind of merge that into the eyes of the law and how we can impose, like, legality on moral issues, because when it comes to rightness or wrongness, it kind of depends on who takes precedence, whose humanity matters most. Are we advocating for women because women matter more than the lives of babies? I know this is largely and historically been a women's rights issue, but, like, what about the reproductive rights of men? Like, we talk about how they had to consent to sex, and we hold them responsible for the caring of a child, but we don't consider them, just because this is an issue largely surrounding women's bodies. So when we talk about equality and the appropriate lens, it kind of depends on your perspective on whose humanity matters more, really. And I don't think that we'll ever get to a concrete answer on the rightness or wrongness of that.
Got you. And I want to make sure, because we're getting just in the interest of time, I want to make sure I ask specific questions to each of you based on your expertise. So, Alicia, I want to start with you, right? Your organization provides financial support for women who have decided to have the abortion procedure. And just, browsing through the website, I saw that, it looks like as of last year, within the last year, 2,504 women used WMF's financial support to follow through on their decision. So what are some of the potential consequences that we as a society may face if women who are certain about their decision to not see a pregnancy to full term are now outlawed from having it done at a safe facility?
Yeah, sure. So as a disclaimer, our website is horribly out of date. So we actually provided some emergency financial support to closer to 3,300 people last year.
Oh, okay.
In our 5-county region. And all of the people who we serve are living in incredible poverty, earning less than $8,000 a year. Most of the folks who call our helpline are already parents of 1 to 2 children. So having that decision to terminate their pregnancy is really a matter of taking care of their family and not going further into poverty. So I just want to kind of frame that.
Yeah.
I also want to point out that abortion, although legal since Roe, has always been out of reach for those folks who call our helpline, right? So with the federal Hyde Amendment that basically said that anybody on Medicaid would not be allowed to use that, by design, was by this racist man who said what he wishes he could make abortion illegal for everybody, but he can't. So he's going to make sure that poor people can't access it, right? So this is what I want to remind folks, is that Roe v. Wade didn't make it accessible for Black and brown folks living in poverty, right? And so what it means is that it's going to demand that folks continue to get creative Abortion funds, like I always say and others say, were built for this. We were by design created in a way to make sure that folks, no matter what, would have access to abortion. And so we are prepared with the infrastructure and the kindness of our folks who support abortion access through and through to make sure that people who need that can get that.
Gotcha.
So we feel confident in PA that we're going to continue the fight.
Gotcha. And Nina, so many see the abortion bans and restrictive measures that, Alabama, Georgia, Ohio, Arkansas, and others are taking as an attempt to force the Supreme Court to, overturn Roe v. Wade, through lawsuits. In your opinion, who stands to benefit from, that kind of potential overturn, and what exactly is it that they stand to benefit?
Exactly. Let me just refresh people's memory as to what NOW stands for, National Organization for Women. It's one of the largest, most comprehensive feminist advocacy groups in the states, and its goal has been to take action to bring about equality for women. It's multi-issue, multi-strategy, taking a sort of a holistic approach. And our official priorities are winning economic equality, securing it with the amendment to the Constitution, as I mentioned earlier, equal rights. And the reason we start with economic equality is because all of this actually impacts our economic ability. Just as Alicia said that, she has patients who are coming who already are parents are making a choice about how they're going to manage their family. So it's an economic measure of having control over your own body, amongst other things we do. So I just wanted to kind of frame it in that way that access to abortion is one of the tools that we have to manage our lives. And I think I feel this is stemming from sort of continuing to enforce patriarchy. This really is about, I think Elisa had said before, it's about control. It is about viewing women as property as they used to be. There are places still in this world where you need permission from your male family member to go anywhere, do anything, drive a car, do all kinds of things. And we're seeing a different level of that, and this is no accident, what we're seeing happening. A lot of people held their nose and voted for Trump because they wanted the change on the Supreme Court in order to be able to do what they're doing now. And I think this is where we face a great danger of us going backwards in time. All the advances we've made, whether it's in education, whether it's in economics, whether it's in science and technology, where women have access to things. Abortion rights is just one tool to kind of let women know you're not all that. We're going to control you, we're going to put you in your place, and we're going to do it by impacting your body. Because if our bodies are impacted, we are really locked in. We're in a prison if we aren't able to manage our own bodies. And I think it's people who feel that having an autocratic system where there's a father knows best mentality is at work, and that's what we're finding kind of filters through. There's women, the person who signed in the Alabama bill is a white woman.
Right,
So
the governor.
It's not like this is just men trying to control women. These are women who think that women have a place, and that place is underneath men. And that's who's going to control, and that's the order they want to preserve.
Gotcha.
And I think that, to me, that's tied into patriarchy and white supremacy.
Gotcha. Well, ladies, thus far, I want to thank you for each of your contributions. We got to get ready to take this break, but when we come back on the other side, Lakeisha, I want to pick up with you and just kind of setting the stage here. You work to dismantle the stigma and silence that surrounds sexual violence. And so, we want to know, what are your thoughts about how abortion bans that are highly restrictive, such as that in Alabama and Ohio, affect survivors of sexual violence? So when we come back, we'll pick back up with you, and then we'll move on to Alyssa to get your thoughts on the Pennsylvania House of Representatives passing of this controversial bill prohibiting abortion after a fetal diagnosis of Down syndrome. So, loves, you're tuned in to The Lounge on WURD Radio. If you would love to join this conversation, you are more than welcome to. Our hotline number is 215-634-8065. Again, that's 215-634-8065. Excuse me, you can also call in toll free, 866-361-0900. Again, that's 866-361-0900. What we're having right now is called a Real Talk Roundtable for Women Crush Wednesday. We're discussing our voice, our bodies, and our reproductive organs. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after these messages.
Listen to Word Radio on the go with the Word Radio app. Search for WURD in your favorite app store today and take us with you wherever you go. Stay connected to Word Radio, independent Black media.
1 in every 4 of us can't make ends meet. We can keep pre-K for our children and still get rid of that ridiculous soda tax. Drug injection sites are not safe, and someone gets killed almost every day in Philadelphia. From poverty to potholes, we can do better. I am Anthony Hardy Williams, and I have been listening to you.
We can move Philadelphia forward together. Vote Anthony Hardy Williams for mayor. Paid for by Williams for mayor.
Are you stressed from work and daily life? Are you lacking the confidence to become the person you want to be? Do you want to take your healthy lifestyle to the next level? If so, let's work together. Hello, I'm Helana, your resident self-care strategist. 14 years ago, I started my very own wellness journey, and since then have been able to help hundreds of people to regain control of their lives through yoga, meditation, and plant-based eating. If you want lasting lifestyle changes and to build healthy habits that will grow with you, text me your email address right now. I know you have your phone in your hand at 267-281-3890. Again, that's 267-281-3890. Text me your email address to receive your very own self-care guide.
Listen live at wordradio.com.
Millions plan for retirement online. Estimate your future benefits, apply for retirement, and manage your benefits all from the comfort of your home. And give yourself the freedom to do what you want offline. Social Security's online services help put you in control with secure access to your information anytime, anywhere, allowing you to spend more time with family, friends, or simply just enjoying the day. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow. See what you can do online at socialsecurity.gov.
Used at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Join parents and experts at understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues designed to help you help your child thrive in school and in life. Understood.org, because understanding is everything. Brought to you by understood.org and the Ad Council.
The Lounge with Sincerely Sarita. Sincerely Sarita. Right now on Word Radio. Word TV. We're streaming live video of this conversation right now. Tune in on YouTube at onWURD or on Facebook at forward. Word TV. Black Talk Media.
Hey, loves, you're back in the lounge on WURD Radio 96.1 FM, 900 AM. We're holding a Real Talk Roundtable in honor of Women Crush Wednesday. And, you know, just what we're seeing happening nationwide concerning our voices, our bodies, our reproductive systems. And so I count myself blessed to have 4 women here who have accepted our invitation to share their thoughts on all of this. Nina Ahmad, she's a board member of the National Organization for Women, also known as NOW. Lakeisha Anthony, founder and CEO of Voice, which is a network whose mission is to dismantle the stigma and silence that surrounds sexual violence. And then Alicia Gonzalez, a queer Latinx licensed social worker who serves as the executive director of the Women's Medical Fund, which is an organization that works to ensure and expand abortion access through direct service and community organizing. And last but not least, Alyssa, look at me. W, who is a millennial mother of 2 sons, one of whom was diagnosed with Down syndrome, and he recently turned 3 years old. So jumping back into our roundtable, Lakeisha, picking up with you. So your work is really around dismantling the stigma and silence that surrounds sexual violence. And so definitely interested to know what your thoughts are about how these abortion bans are highly restrictive, right? Especially the one in Alabama and Ohio. In that they make no exception for survivors of rape and incest. So how does this affect survivors?
Ultimately is re-victimization. Ultimately not allowing people to actually choose what happens to their bodies when they've already had an experience that actually dictated something that they did not want to happen to their body. And I think it's more about the choice that becomes the re-victimization more than anything else. But the idea is that ultimately rape-related pregnancy is a public health problem. And because it's a public health problem, it's where this intersection between reproductive health and sexual violence actually intersect, right? And when we think about this, we say, wait, 2.4% of the population experience rape-related pregnancy, right? And when you say 2.4, we kind of look at that number as a small number, but that's like 3 million people. So what you're saying is that these 3 million people don't matter, and you're actually taking yet another choice away from them. Someone already raped them and took their choice away. So now here you are, by law, taking yet another choice. So I think that it's highly offensive. I think that it's very insensitive, and that it's not necessarily supporting survivors in any way, shape, or form. And that doesn't mean that they're going to actually choose an abortion, but don't give away or snatch away that particular choice.
Got you. All right. And so, Alyssa, I want to get to you. You know, you're a mother of two amazing sons, right? But also an amazing 3-year-old little boy who was diagnosed with Down syndrome while in your womb. And so you were encouraged by medical professionals throughout your pregnancy to abort due to what they believe would be a diminished quality of life for him. So what are your thoughts about Pennsylvania House of Representatives passing this controversial bill yesterday prohibiting abortion after a field diagnosis of Down syndrome?
So, of course, this is something that's personal to me just because of my son with Down syndrome. But even still, with that being my situation, I don't think that infringing upon the reproductive rights of women are the answer. I think that what would be most effective is maybe a campaign to change the way that diagnoses are delivered. In my situation specifically, when I chose to go through with prenatal testing, and I made it clear that my intentions for going through with prenatal testing were only for preparation purposes to gather resources, just to, get the unknown piece out of the way. The immediate response to that was a statistic that 90% of people say that and still change their mind, meaning they say that they don't want to terminate, but once they know, they do terminate. I think that this is problematic because for an individual who may know nothing about Down syndrome, this is their first experience of Down syndrome, their first time hearing about it, and then immediately following that, they're getting this feedback or kind of implication that the road should stop here. That's more problematic than, say, the termination rates. I think that a large reason why many people terminate at their prenatal diagnosis is because they're kind of made to feel like that's what the next step should be. I don't think that, when I look at my son, I don't see anything about him that will make me wish that I didn't have him, or anything about him that, will make me feel like he didn't deserve to be here. And if I could, kind of compare that to life with him and life without him, I think that's so upsetting just to think that, what if I was a weak-minded person and I fed into this feedback and I didn't give my son a chance to live. So I don't think that, the reproductive rights of women should be how we handle this. I think that we should talk more about how doctors deliver a prenatal diagnosis. I think we should talk more about the resources that are available for not just individuals with Down syndrome, but all individuals who are differently able. Because to be honest, with the exception of that extra chromosome, every single thing that an individual with Down syndrome may face can be faced by any individual. Any individual can have a cognitive delay, a developmental delay, be medically fragile. And so when we make exceptions, that kind of leads to a slippery slope. Like, do we get to nitpick and, choose to abort all babies if we know in advance that they'll have qualities or characteristics about them that are unfavorable? So I think that, that's a dangerous area to get into. And what the focus should be is more on, just having an appropriate conversation when we are delivering this diagnosis prenatally, and to advocate for more resources and more services so that people can know that this is something that is doable. Because with abortion in general, we have those instances of, rape and incest, but there's a large amount of abortions that take place because people don't feel equipped, whether it be financially, emotionally, or whatever. I think that if we just focus more on having support in place not just for, individuals with Down syndrome, but for all of the reasons why people may decide to terminate a pregnancy.
Gotcha.
But I don't think the infringement upon reproductive rights is the answer.
Okay. So, ladies, before we shift gears into our next topic, I want to make sure that I give each of you, a brief opportunity. If you, may have heard anything said thus far that you want to respond to, by all means, just want to open up the floor. But if not, what would be your message right now to America regarding the reproductive rights of women? So let me ask first, anyone want to kind of respond to anything that you've heard thus far from your other participants?
This is Nina. I want to just appreciate what Alyssa said, that the answer is not reducing women's ability to choose their future. I think that was really a very important statement, that he separated out what the choice piece was versus how we deal with consequences of whether your child is differently abled in some way that you already know. So I think I thank her for that insight to separate the people.
Yeah. Okay. And so now your individual PSAs, so to speak, for America regarding the reproductive rights of women, starting in studio, we'll go with Lakeisha first.
So ultimately, I want to state that this is not just a women's issue. It's an issue that actually addresses anyone that can actually get pregnant. So we need to think about trans women. We need to think about those individuals who do not identify as women, but yet have reproductive organs as such. And ultimately, just to let people know in regards to this issue when it comes to sexual violence, know how crucial it is for a choice to be taken away from someone, and to actually think about that before you make decisions about what should happen with their bodies yet again. We don't want to take our society 100 years backwards. We are finally moving forward, and we need to continue to move forward.
Got you. Okay, and Nina?
Amen to that. Yes, the same message, and to say that we need to talk about women's ability to live equally as full citizens under the law. And abortion is just one aspect of that. And we need to have control over our bodies, over our reproductive life. And there should be no one besides our doctors with whom we should make these decisions. I don't know why all these people are poking their heads in this arena. There's no need. We have so many more problems in the world. In Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania, we have 26% poverty right in the city. Instead of talking about that, we're trying to mess with women's rights. Seriously, we need to just tell these, mostly men, there's some women too, to just sit down and focus on things that really matter and that they don't need to poke their noses here.
Got you. So have a seat. Okay. And Alicia?
Yeah, I have several seats.
Several.
Have several seats. And echoing what everybody else said, I also just want to remind people that somebody has had an abortion. 1 in 4 folks has had an abortion. I also just want to think about our own language, that everybody who gets pregnant does not identify as a woman. And so I think that as we move forward, we need to think about gender inclusivity, and also just like diving deep into kind of thinking about what kind of society we want to live in. Everybody, a healthy, thriving community depends on people having agency over our own bodies, and to be able to not just survive, but to thrive, which also means that we not only have abilities to decide when we want to have kids, when we don't want to have kids, but that we also have a right to pleasure. We also have a right to joy. We also have a right to be happy and live life with dignity. And so that's the kind of world that I'm fighting for.
Okay. And Alyssa?
Yeah, my message would be just to keep that same energy all the way across the board, or just have several seats. If we are going to care about life, whether it be from the time of conception or whenever we decide that life matters, then let life matter. We can't, turn a blind eye to, clearly alive people being gunned down in our streets, but then also say that, a fetus matters. We can't ignore, the the unbelievable rates of black women dying during childbirth and say that, you know, this life matters, but their life doesn't. So I think that if we're talking about humanity and lives that matter, we need to just keep that same energy all the way across the board. If we're going to talk about, you know, body autonomy, like, we need to keep that same energy all the way across the board.
Gotcha.
We can't nitpick. And I think that there will always be so many different lenses that we can look at these different issues through, and we'll never get it right. There will never be a way to please all people. If you do something that's, you know, that supports just the right of all women, then there's going to be people who want to know, like, well, what about the babies, or what about the transgender people? Like, there's no way that we can get it all right. So I think that we need to just stop making certain, like, personal issues legislative issues.
Got you.
And just give people rights to choose what they want for their body.
Okay, so I got to switch gears a bit, just in the interest of time, and so let's kind of do that. You are all women of color, right? So Nina, you're a first-generation Bangladeshi American. Alicia, you're Latinx, and Lakeisha and Alyssa, you're both African American women. So what has been your experience as a woman of color in America? Lakeisha, let's start with you in studio.
Exhausting. Clearly exhausting. Being black in America tells us that we don't matter. Tells us that our bodies don't matter. Tell us that the things we care about don't matter. But yet we are beautiful, yet we bring black girl magic all the time, but yet you're constantly telling us through all of the things that happen in society that we don't matter, and we have to constantly feed to ourselves and also feed to our young girls that we do matter. And I think that becomes more exhausting the longer and the more that we continue to fight this fight in this country.
Got you. Nina?
So, you know, this country, because I'm, you know, an immigrant to this country, 400 years of classifying people as less than has had such an impact, particularly on black women. And when we say people of color, women of color, we have to really be careful, and we need to first identify what and who are we talking about. The black women's experience is completely and totally different in many ways than regular, you know, than the term women of color. So first is to acknowledge that the history of this country, which is based on white supremacy, impacts me, yes, but it impacts black women even more than me. So acknowledging that and thanking, I need to do that because I have so much privilege having come here because of where I came from and who died for me, whose blood I stand in, but I stand in the blood, sweat, and tears of black people who fought for me to be able to do things. So I need to remember that and have solidarity and always remember who, you know, paves the path for me, and that's black women in my brain. And I have experienced, racism, but it's racism where I think I'm not as dehumanized as a black woman. I'm dehumanized to a certain level, and there are expectations of me, and I'm put in a box. Yes, my children get followed in the store, and yes, I don't get access to capital for my business. All of those things happen. But, you know, I grew up in a country that was colonized, but I was in my own space. I wasn't kidnapped and put somewhere else, told you can't learn to read and write, and you'll be killed if you do that. And that continues today as we see mass incarceration, and all of the ill effects of slavery still persist today. So this country is based on white supremacy being the platform. And
Gotcha.
Everybody who's not white is just not as good.
Got you. And we got to get ready to take a break. But Alicia, I want to get to you. You're Latinx, and what's your experience?
I also just really appreciate and value what Nina said, and I co-sign all that. And I think that for me, as a Latina, as a Latinx person, I would say that the white supremacy manifests in feeling like just never enough. Like, I'm not Latina enough. I'm not not Latina enough. So I've always been in the space of in between, and continue to have to reconcile what is my racial identity, what even is my racial identity, right? And who do I, who am I, right? And I feel like in many ways the way in which white supremacy has showed up for me personally is in this deep-rooted cause for acculturation and assimilation in such a way that I'm 44 years old, and I'm still just kind of trying to figure out like where my roots are. And so I'm continuing to be resentful, but also resilient in that quest.
Yeah. And last but not least, Alyssa.
I second the notion that being a black woman in America is just tiring. We just kind of have this expectation to be so resilient and just kind of be there for everyone else that we don't get supported in the way that we support others. We're seeing African American women be, gunned down and taken advantage of the same way that we see for other people of color, but the outcry is not the same. Like, we're kind of expected to kind of have our own backs. And then we're also labeled as like angry or whatever when we kind of, express weariness and being fed up with that. So I definitely think that it's an exhausting experience being a black woman in America.
Got you. Well, listen, we got to get ready to take a break, but when we come back on the other side, we want to talk about Metro Molly. That's what she's known as. Her name is Natasha Tynes. She's a Jordanian American who has referred to herself as a minority writer. However, she really just kind of caught some fire over her decision to tweet a picture of a Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority employee who was eating breakfast on a train ride. She tagged the Transportation Authority, stating that she thought this kind of thing wasn't allowed and was unacceptable. The employee was a black woman, and so she sent that tweet. They responded and thanked her, asked her for more details. The Twitter clapback was very swift, to the point where, somewhat of an investigation ensued by the Metro Authority, and they confirmed that the employee will not face disciplinary action. Barry Hobson, the chief of staff for Transit Union Local 689, gave some context as to what Tynes had witnessed. And essentially what it was that the train was delayed, and it forced her to have to make a quick decision about eating her breakfast, like literally a split decision breakfast. She would have gotten to her next stop and had her breakfast, but because the train was late, she had to, eat it while there. This tweet was sent 2 days after transit police had sent an email informing officers to stop writing citations for several offenses, one of which included eating on the train. So Tynes later tweeted, quote, "I apologize for a tweet I posted earlier today, which I have since deleted. I am truly sorry." She's an author, so now Rare Bird Books, they were set to distribute her upcoming book. They have decided otherwise. The publisher, California Cold Blood Books, is further discussing, quote, the appropriate next steps to officially cancel the book's publication. So when we come back on this other side, I want to get you all's thoughts on whether you feel there's a difference in the way, you all have kind of spoken to this, the way that African American women are viewed and treated by society versus that of other ethnicities, but how should or does this shape the way in which, and when one chooses to use the term minority? Right. So want to dive into that a little bit. And then also your main concern regarding, young girls and women who are growing up in this age. So, loves, you're tuned in to The Lounge on WURD Radio 96.1 FM, 900 AM. We're having a Real Talk roundtable with 4 amazing women and really enjoying this. So stay tuned. We'll be right back after these messages.
Listen to Word Radio on the go with the Word Radio app. Search for WURD in your favorite app store today and take us with you wherever you go. Stay connected to Word Radio, independent black media.
The soulful sounds of legendary songstress Nina Simone will come to life on Sunday, May 19th, as Germantown Arts presents Singing Nina, an inspiring cultural festival and conference. This special musical tribute will feature a day-long celebration of Nina Simone's life and work, including a screening of What Happened Miss Simone, a panel discussion of Miss Simone's life and work, a VIP reception with music by Mbalia Singly, a garden party with DJ Rich Medina, and musical tribute titled Dear Nina, a sonic love letter by Drea Deneur, and strings by Rootstock Republic. You don't want to miss this extraordinary tribute to the legendary singer, songwriter, arranger, civil rights activist, and high priestess of soul, Nina Simone. Get your tickets today. Visit GermantownArts.com or call 215-839-6732.
Be heard. Want another way to join the conversation? Follow us on social media using the hashtag onWURD. Be heard. Stay connected to Word Radio. Independent Black Media.
Independence is a precious thing, but now and then everyone needs a little help. Isn't it good to know that getting the help you need doesn't mean drastically changing your life? Always Best Care Philly in Delaware is there to give you just the amount of help you need, from a few hours a week to as many hours as you need, handling everything from light housekeeping to meals, and so much more. Don't struggle. Contact Always Best Care and see how easy it is to age in place. Call us at 302-409-3710 or visit alwaysbestcaredelaware.com.
Next Thursday, you will be caught in an extreme flash flood.
Disasters don't plan ahead, but you can. Talk to your loved ones about making an emergency plan. Get started today at ready.gov/plan. Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Word TV. We're streaming live video of this conversation right now. Tune in on YouTube at onWURD or on Facebook at forward. Word TV. Black Talk Media. The Lounge with Sincerely Sarita. Sincerely Sarita. Right now on Word Radio.
Welcome back, loves, and we're going to jump right back in to our Real Talk Roundtable. So, ladies, you know, I set the stage before we went to break about this Metro Mali situation. You know, really pointing out the fact that she's a Jordanian American who has referred to herself as a minority writer, but didn't hesitate to, you know, really put the livelihood of a black woman on the line simply because she was eating on the train. So wanted to get your thoughts about the use, right? The way in which and when one chooses to use the term minority. Let's start with Lakeisha in studio. Your thoughts on this situation?
So ultimately, yet another form of cultural appropriation, and ultimately everybody wants to be us, but nobody wants to have the issues that we've endured in order to make us who we are.
Yeah.
Okay, that was
that's all I got.
succinct. Okay, yeah. Nina, let's go to you.
So, you know, people like this woman, Metro Mali, she clearly seems to me operates from a white supremacist frame because that benefits her, and she's closer to power as a result of that. But conveniently is a woman of color when it benefits her. So she can write minority, and then she can get those benefits. But it's akin to me writing on your college application that you're a Native American, but then you don't advocate or do anything else to identify yourself as such, but you took advantage of that. It's just despicable.
Okay. And up next, let's go to Alicia.
I mean, all I have is all of the sides. It's just appalling. This story is so appalling to me for so many reasons, including the fact that she completely was misappropriating that word for her own benefit. And, I mean, there's certain people that I feel like I just want and hold to a higher standard. And those people are people who I share something in common with usually, like maybe it's our sexuality, our gender. And so I just want women to do better. And so when women let me down, it feels like a even harder fall. So I just, I feel like it's a lot.
Okay. And Alyssa?
Yeah, I think that, stuff like that is definitely appropriation, and it definitely adds to the exhaustion of the experience as being like a black or brown woman of color. Because here we have this person, or like these kind of like racially ambiguous people of color who are able to kind of ride that line and pick and choose when they want to benefit from white supremacy. So yeah, like it just adds to the exhaustion because, like, black and brown women of color, we don't get to wash off the oppression and outrun the oppression and wipe off the blackness. So something like that is just, if you identify yourself as a person of color or as a minority, like, are you, like, let me hit the side eye, like, are you an ally or what?
Who are
because, like, is this just to your benefit or whatever? Like, you probably identify as a minority for, just for dramatic impact in your writing or whatever. But when it comes to, like, the true experience of being a minority and woman of color, like, are you really about that life? And I just like this is an instance where, like, you're not, and you're completely oblivious to the true experience of a woman of color because you just put somebody's livelihood in jeopardy for something as petty as
breakfast.
Mm-hmm. So we're getting like extremely low on time, and I always want to try to keep things solution based, right? And so that's kind of what I want to lay out to each of you is, you know, what are the action steps that you feel like America needs to take to move us in a direction that you feel is a brighter one? And you can, you know, do your best if you can try to keep these short, your response short to, I won't say maybe 30 to 45 seconds. But, you know, really just laying out what direction we need to be moving in and specific steps that you feel like we could take to get there. So Lakeisha, we'll start with you.
So we ultimately need to be moving in a direction of equality, and we also need to ensure that we're valuing Black and brown people as a whole.
Okay. Nina?
Yes, I echo that about equality, and we have a tool, the Equal Rights Amendment that I spoke about, and we could ratify that into our Constitution, and then this whole question of abortion goes away because it would be about women's ability to live equally as full citizens under the law. And talking about race, we really have to dismantle our white supremacist platform. Every child that's born in this country, when you're born white, by the time you're a year or two, you notice you have more power than your Black and brown friends. And we need to stop that.
Okay. Alicia?
So not to repeat what else everybody said, I think, like to take it on a personal level is to think about how you are having conversations about your own, sexual health, like your own experiences with abortion, to feel courageous in sharing that story with others, to ask other people about their experiences of having had an abortion or having, like, what does it feel like to be a mother, but to, like, engage in storytelling that is so rich, I think, in being able to pass on tradition, but also in changing people's hearts and minds. And so to figure out ways that we can, like, not only speak, but to, like, also shut up and to hear each other and to listen and to make space for those kind of stories to emerge, and to be able to say the words out loud about, like, what does it actually mean to be, like, a fully human person.
Got you. And Alyssa?
Yeah, so I agree with all of that. I think that we need to focus more on, visibility and seeing women of color as the humans that they are. Even, like, on a legislative level, I think that we need to do a better job at, like, self-knowledge and how we are viewed in the eyes of the law. I know one of the other guests mentioned, like, constitutional rights and legislatively. Like let's just take the Dred Scott case, for example, that kind of pretty much ruled that free or slave Black people were not considered citizens. There's never been anything to explicitly, like, overrule that. So when we talk about, like, the legislative impact, we have to be mindful of, like, how we are viewed in the eyes of the law, in the eyes of the Constitution, and kind of advocate on that level too.
Gotcha.
So that we can really have a conversation about equality and, apply equality in real life.
Got you. All right. Well, ladies, I got to get ready to let you all go. I want to thank you all so much for contributing to this discussion. And Loves, again, I had the honor of welcoming Nina Ahmad. She's the board member of the National Organization for Women, also known as NOW. Lakeisha Anthony, founder and CEO of Voice, which stands for Victory Over Inconceivable Cowardly Experiences. Alicia Gonzalez, a queer Latinx licensed social worker who serves as the executive director of the Women's Medical Fund. And Alyssa W., she is a millennial mother of 2 sons, one of whom was diagnosed with Down syndrome and recently turned 3 years old. So, ladies, really quickly, why don't you do your shameless social media plugs, let folks know where to find you at, or if you prefer a website, drop that website so that folks can, reach out to you. So, Lakeisha, we'll start with you and continue on.
Okay, you can find me at ACE Survivors with an S, Voice.org, or ACE Survivors Voice on all social media handles, or at IM_the_voice.
Okay, and Nina?
I have a public page on Facebook, Nina Ahmed for Pennsylvania. Please visit there. And I have my Twitter handle, which I use a little bit, at Nina Ahmed CHL. And my Instagram is at Nina for PA.
Okay.
So hope we can meet again, and thank you so much, Sarita, for having us.
Of course. Alicia?
So we're Women's Medical Fund. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Women's Med Fund. People can also find me, Elicia, ELICIAG, on Twitter and Instagram as well.
All right, and last but not least, Alyssa.
For now, you guys can find me on Instagram at _L.SS_. And you guys can feel free to shoot me messages, DMs, or whatever about all things special needs advocacy, medical issues, all types of stuff. I have a nice range of resources at my fingertips right now. But that's where you guys can reach me for now until I go live with my other avenues of advocacy.
Okay. All right, loves. Listen, that is a wrap. Much